Fission radio show with your host, Lonnie Clark. We stand together and accept that we now live in a world transformed by Fukushima. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time here on UCY.TV radio. We relentlessly engage every ear that listens. We expose and confront the complete lack of accountability for the nuclear industry. Consider social engineering programs who view our bodies, minds, and souls as assets on a balance sheet. We discuss vital current issues, interview activists, and engage our audience in an effort to allow all voices to be heard. The Age of Vision radio show creates a venue that all will choose. We encourage our listeners to reclaim their power and their courage to take action and save our planet from the ravages of greed and indifference. Our actions matter. Every voice matters. We remind our listeners that happiness is resistance. Love is greater than fear.
Good morning, UCY.TV radio listeners. This is Lonnie Clark with the Age of Fission radio show. Thank you for joining us. Today is 11/25/2016. It's 8 o'clock in the morning. It is Friday, and I have to get my guest host again with us. A friend of our show is Dana Durnford. Dana, thank you for joining us. I really appreciate your time with us.
Oh, sure. Yeah, my absolute pleasure.
Yeah. So look, today is Black Friday, and I want to ask you about something because Kevin Finnegan and I had already arranged that we were going to go protest on Black Friday. Yesterday, we were texting back and forth furiously. He wants to still go, and I'm like, and then he told me he had a very serious medical condition with his lungs. He was having problems breathing. He says, I'm fine now. He still wants to go out. He's 22 years old. I think he's too young. We should not go out and expose him to the plume of radiation that is bombarding us right now, especially with a weak lung. What do you think? I told him I would defer to you. If you thought it was okay, I'll go out, but I think it's too dangerous.
I wouldn't dare not even consider it for the next couple of weeks. We got major earthquake, shallow earthquake right off the coast of Fukushima's prefecture. Along that coastline, there's 15 reactors in range of that shallow earthquake. Now, the shallower it is, the more lateral movement, the more violent it is.
Right.
So compared to the major one from 2011, was a 9 point, maybe 2. And so this was 43 miles out and 18 miles deep underground, not under, some people get lost in translation, but anyway, the one we just had was 23 miles out, almost half the distance, and it was only 6 miles deep. And now the buildings in Tokyo were rocking. So as you're familiar with the pictures, I'm not sure how the other guys familiar with what the buildings in Japan look like, the reactors, but they were destroyed. And so there was no integrity whatsoever. Now, we've been warned many times that a major earthquake can start another nuclear event in that area. There's 15 plants that went down in what they call cold shutdown station blackout, where they lost power. Just to build context for everybody, it's about 38 hours after you lose power, you have a meltdown. Once the meltdown starts, it's game over. You can never get in there. You can't get within 300 to 600 feet of the building itself, or you get a lethal dose that'll kill you within a week or two if you just had a short exposure. Now, the plumes that are going to be coming over, we already know and flushed out the jet streams and the wind and everything else, how that works over the last 6 years from the radiation. And the plume gets here roughly 3 days at 100 miles per hour, 24 hours a day. Each day is 2,400 miles. The plume most likely doesn't stop coming out. It's not just like someone jumped on a bag of flour and you got a big plume of flour flying up in the air and that goes and spreads over everything. It's not like that at all. It's actually being created nonstop. And so the plume can really fill up the sky, fill up the entire width of the Pacific mass and the jet streams all the way up to the upper tropospheres. And then it slowly rains out. We've been having heavy rains yesterday, heavy rains, just unusually heavy rains all day. This is something we've seen happen after Fukushima. Get back on track is that absolutely under, you should close all your windows and close all your doors and stay indoors, not go outdoors. And so go ahead.
It is really, he was like, well, we need to be willing to sacrifice ourselves to get the message out. I'm like, no, we can get the message out.
Yeah, you're sacrificing, but not like that.
No,
that's
because
bad. That's bad choices. Yeah.
Yeah, that's just like drinking arsenic. You know what I mean? Like that's
right.
What
That's
I
right.
think.
Yeah. It's drinking arsenic till you're almost going to die, then you stop because you know you'll die if you drink another drop. And so, what? That's exactly right.
Yeah. So no, and we can wait. If we wait 3 weeks, we can at Christmas time we can make the same non-consumers. We can talk to them about Fukushima. We can do everything else that we can do.
It's bizarre that we are on the other side of the Pacific, and we're worried about particles coming over. And the reason we're worried is not because it can, if enough comes through, it can, and it did, dropped around 22,000 people died of heart attacks, more than they did any other year in that month when Fukushima came through. A major spike in children's mortality, infant mortality. But the plume we're talking about this time works this way. You breathe it in, and 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years down the road, you have vicious autoimmune deficiencies. There's up to 1,800 of, including Alzheimer's and dementia.
And autism. Schizophrenia. That's
and schizophrenia, which goes hand in hand. That's right. Yes. Autism comes across that way. But also heart, liver, lung, respiratory, pituitary, adrenaline. 1,800 illnesses before cancer will show up. And that will show up. That definitely is going to show up before the cancer. That will show up. If you're exposed, you can't avoid it. If you don't try to. And so, like, even you might not be exposed, everybody gets exposed because you can't avoid it. You have to breathe air and drink water and eat food. And so why push the limits, why force yourself out into the environment? Look, if there was a nuclear war, say a quick nuclear war, if there's such a thing, between, say, China and Russia, and they had an exchange, say 4 bombs each. Okay. Well, then that would be well known, publicized, and people would be allowed to come out and talk about it. And what they would recommend is everybody in North America stayed indoors because the winds come straight over from China, and which is not that far from Japan by the wind. And so if there had been a major accident and we had proper people, if scientists actually had a soul or a heart or a moral compass or something, well, this is what they've done in South Korea, where they closed 140 schools after Fukushima for several days because the plume was coming through, and they wanted to keep the kids indoors, and just walking to school was too much. And so they kept them home, right? We didn't do that. We had 10 times more radiation in North America. We're talking about big numbers that went there and big numbers that came here. And every exposure is too much. And so if you got the opportunity to avoid it, and you do in this case, you do have that opportunity to avoid it because you've been told.
Now, when people go out, Dana, should people wear a scarf around
their face? They should wear big wide brim hats. And you should wear jackets and scarves and stuff like that, and clothing and shoes.
Around your face, keep your face covered, your nose and your mouth, like wear a mask.
And ideally throw it in the garbage when you come home. Yeah. And so this is prohibitively expensive for most people to consider. But what you could do is go to Salvation Army and buy secondhand clothing, iron it out, and when you go out, wear that stuff. When you come home, throw it away. Do that repeatedly.
Yeah, and
buy
you could
cheap
actually
T-shirts.
Yeah, just buy it like 2 sizes too big. You could wear it over your clothes.
And after 3 or 4 exposures, if you can't afford it, you can wear it 3 or 4 times, then get rid of it. But don't keep it. Don't wash it. Don't put it in your washer. Don't put it in your dryer. Don't do stuff like that. Don't bring your clothing into the common area. Don't put your clothing that you're wearing outdoors now with other clothing. Don't put it in your closets if you
Okay.
can avoid it. But I mean, if you leave your door open, this stuff is flowing in
Now,
your
if you
home.
can't avoid it, I mean, let's just say people don't avoid it and can't avoid it. I mean, I think about this, Dana, what I did when Fukushima really happened was nothing. I did nothing. Like, I had no idea. I
Sure.
believed everything. So, I mean, when you say things to people, like, I'm going to just respond to you that I know everyone else is like, really, what happens? Like, what do we do? It's like that Scooby Doo moment when you go, I already did it, or what am I going to do? What is it going to cause? And what's the long term? I mean, can you keep washing your washing machine to cleanse your? I
You
mean,
can only wash about 10% of the radiation off. Go ahead.
you know what I think? I think people should put microbes in their washing machines. Like, don't you think the microbes might help absorb it in a way like they do them along the coast and along?
Um, like I go to the extreme, but you know, that's just me. You can take a washer outdoors and acid wash it. Same thing with a dryer. And what you're doing is you're burning off a layer of the outside metal, and you do that several times a year. I mean, so that's the extreme. I mean, because this stuff bonds with the
I
metal
don't know if
itself.
that's extreme, but that's an idea that we can
You can
probably do.
acid
You look,
wash. Yeah,
I'm
shock.
calling from the laptop. I've called into the radio show. We're connected through my laptop today. So I am going to give out the number if people want to call us at 718-717-8296. You can talk to Dana Durnford and ask him about things that you can do in your community and the implications of what's going on right now. So the number is 718-717-8296. And we'll just continue, Dana, because I'm going to attempt to see if we can get people on, because I think it'd be great if people could just ask you questions directly.
Right. And I mean, that's the point of getting myself so educated that hopefully I can handle anything comes my way and have a proper answer. If not, then I'm not going to give an answer, obviously, if I don't have a proper answer. I'm not just going to try to pacify people. The point being is we have so many experts, and all of them talk about bananas and potato chips and walking in the sunshine, which are the known lies. And then, so how can we turn to these people looking for any kind of help or advice or information or to console us? Because we can't, because they're going to lie. And if you go look at their history, that's all they done was lied to us constantly. And every one of them done it for 70 years. It's a horrible position to be in that we can't trust the nuclear scientists. And you can't. You would be the stupidest person, period, to trust any of them. You would be completely gullible. I cannot. I listen to every one of them, and every one of them at some point will start lying. They'll tell you
Well,
all kinds of truth, then they start lying.
Donna Durnford said that it was created by the nuclear industry, so they have been thoroughly brainwashed. They believe what they're saying. They really, their concept, their
They
brain,
got an education and knows better.
well, they have been brainwashed to believe they really believe it's that they understand it better, and that we are not understanding. Seriously, after talking with them, they really believe they're not lying. They really believe
No,
that we don't understand the physics of it, and that ultimately it's not that dangerous on human life. That having some people die is worth it. It's not that
that's the
bad.
story. And also, they're the first ones to tell you it's like a banana, like potassium 40, like walking in sunshine and getting on airplanes and climbing mountains and sleeping next to somebody. These are the exact same people from the same, the same breed, the same institutions. And they won't correct each other. And so we have lost complete faith in every single one of them. There is none out there that we feel we can trust, none that we
Yeah.
can prove we can trust. If we look at any of them, now I have, then we find bananas and potato chips are not very deep in their history. And so every one of them should lose their degree from the university they came from. If I was the dean at those universities, I'd be forced to take their degree away because they're blatant, easily to prove lies and manipulations and deceptions. So why are they doing it? Well, people need to ask them that question. And once again, they'll try to reinforce that it's like a banana. We watch the crazies over and over. They're at it right now doing it to us. Look, every animal died in every study in every country for 70 years. every animal, and vicious tumors in every animal. Nothing survives. They can't, no way. This is why we got terrorist laws, of course. This is why we got nuclear holding sites. We can't create a waste site because it's so deadly. This is why WIP has a detonation underground. They got to evacuate it permanently and sucking billions of dollars, over $6 billion in the last couple of years, trying to get back down there. And they can't. They know they can't get back down there. They're just grabbing money because that's all that community got is WIP. They got nothing else. In New Mexico, all the communities around there are beholden to the nuclear industry because they're full of those people. They've migrated there from all over the place. We've lost the countries to this handful of industries that's connected to the nuclear. Million corporations.
Well, not only that, we've lost our entire ability for independence. Like this is, I think, the
We
violence
lost
that
all species.
all the violence that we're seeing all around, honestly, like at Standing Rock, that's the same violence they're doing to us right now by not telling us. It's even worse. Like,
Right, right. Yeah.
it's so beyond comprehension that people are like, I mean, I get it. We do need to stand up for people's rights and for things like that, but it's how you cannot connect it. When they were first taking that stand, I have continually been reaching out to the Native American, to all of the First Nations and all those people to try to come on the air and give them some time. I have not gotten a response, I guess, because they're so busy, but I see these two issues as it's all connected. This is why I talk about social engineering. We cannot disconnect any of this stuff because it's all the same evil hand that has no regard for life on our planet, and they are killing us. It's not like they're going to kill us. They are killing us. By not, like even this weekend, not telling people to stay indoors is outrageous.
Right. And that's their job. That was their job. That's their sworn oath. That's the academics' hypocritical oath, so to speak. But they breached those oaths a long time ago when you brought your children to hospitals and gave them radiation treatment. That was a breach of the oath right there. And that 93% of the leukemia victims died before they would have without, if they never got radiation treatment, chemotherapy, which doesn't work without radiation, and it doesn't work anyway, but they don't use it without radiation, which is chemicals, but it's enhanced with radiation, radioactive isotopes. And they have, when you get chemotherapy, you have to sign a piece of paper saying they can do whatever they want to you, they can give whatever they want to you, that you accept the experimental. So why they tell you it's chemo is this and this and this, it's actually changed all the time. They're adding isotopes all the time. No isotope has ever cured anybody under any circumstances. That's a fact. That you can't be cured by isotopes. How can you? It sequesters in your muscles, your organs, in your body, and then what happens is your body attacks it for decades, trying to build a tumor around it. And so every cancer patient dies. The ones that survive, the 3% of, most likely never even had cancer. There was over 6 million women wrongly diagnosed with breast cancer over the last decade just in North America. 6 million wrongly
Wow.
that they admit to. And most of
Wow.
them had their titties cut off because the
Wow.
industry is vicious. They didn't have cancer, but they went ahead and done it anyway because somebody said it was true.
But
It's
this is,
disgusting.
I would never even, this is a thing. I actually call them the American Murder Association.
Yeah.
I have no respect for them because they're just, I mean, like, they go hand in hand with the nuclear industry, Dana. Like that, you can't separate all of this. The whole, I mean, honestly, they, Mengele and his gang invaded the United States government and they took over through the CIA. I mean, it is a worldwide catastrophe that it's a cancer, a fester that's on our entire planet right now. I mean, that's
Like
the sad.
I have 24 pictures on my wall of Fukushima, and 8 of them are models from different countries of the radiation plume. And then one model is of the human body, how it intakes it. 3 of the models are animals. 4 of the models are animals. And then ocean currents. And then the 4 buildings, the 4 reactors of the apocalypse, and a
Mm.
couple of other ones. But so every day, this is what I look at that all day long, all night long. Anybody comes to my home has to see that and can't get away from it. But to me, it's that, like, some people could sit there and stare at a TV screen all day and fantasize. I stare at my pictures, no matter where I'm to in my home. I stare at these pictures, and I rationalize, and I postulate, and I go to the computer and research. It's an inspirational tool for me to stay busy at all times, to think proper at all times, to have a moral compass at all times, to understand that I don't Dana basically doesn't exist anymore. That whoever that person is, he's not. He doesn't have any life or any responsibilities outside of the basics. And that my whole life is focused 100% all day, every day, not just on Fukushima, but on everything else. But Fukushima is the big one. We just killed the Pacific Ocean. And we got a long way to go before we see any kind of way forward, if there
It's
is
not
one.
even over, Dana. We have not seen the worst
Right.
to hit. That's the thing. I mean, honestly, this is where
Yeah, that's a good point.
this earthquake has really hit me hard. This last one because it made me realize we are just waiting for it. It hit me to the core because
Oh,
I've
it
shared
should.
this with you that I was like, I had suffered as a child as we did not have the best family circumstances, right? And when that happened, it hit me very deeply, and I realized I used to have that same dread right before my dad came home from work. Like you knew something bad was going to happen. You know what I mean? That's where we're at now. Like this earthquake is just a reminder that we have not seen anything yet. They have allowed this thing to fester, and when it's not if, when it gets direct, if they get lucky this time and it doesn't completely really blow up or have a catastrophic, massive, another criticality as they
It could
call
do
it.
that for 3,000 years.
Yes. But when it starts, it's going to get worse, continually worse. My understanding is it's like the event's going to happen, but it's not going to like just stay, oh, we've got a smoldering fire, like
A
when a
China
methane thing
syndrome.
blows
Right.
up. It's not like some little
Right.
thing that we can just ignore in the back of our heads. It
It's
is going,
badass. It's bad news, man.
it's
It's tough.
Godzilla,
It's the tough
baby.
kid on the block, and it kicks everything's ass. It don't care how big and tough you are. It'll destroy you and everything that you covet instantly. It has no remorse, and it can cremate you after you're done. You liberate those isotopes back into the environment. It'll do it to somebody else, and it could be 1,000 years down the road in a normal uh, ecological system. We have ours totally annihilated our ecological system now. We killed off the bacteria in the forest, the insects, the fauna, the flora, taken out the Pacific. Like these are, I say these nonchalant, but these are staggering statements on their own. Every single one of them are catastrophic events. We live in harmony with the planet, with the other 8 million species, and the plant kingdom. If you start taking pieces of the chain, links out of that chain, you'll wreck the system. And so we've taken literally every link out of the chain except for us. And we've done that too, Manya. But like visibly, we've taken every link now out of the chain. We're in Earth's dying moments, and our time on this planet is only considered like a moment in its history, obviously. But we are in desperation mode, and we can't deny it much longer. We just can't deny it much longer, especially with all the supercell storms that are taking place, 195, 200, 225 mile an hour winds. This is stuff we've never seen ever in a storm, ever, ever, ever. Right? We've never seen this, and they've all showed up after Fukushima, and in direct relationship only to the Pacific. But the radiation is spread into the Atlantic, and it's worldwide. But North America is the worst, obviously. And 1 million becquerels a square meter was what the consensus was for North America after Fukushima, and 55 is an evacuation zone. So like we're in so much trouble, but we got to deal with it. We got to gut up to it. We got to come up with solutions, mitigations. We got to come up, close these industries, and holding these people responsible is always, for some reason, the last thing on our list. And because we're in desperation mode, but people don't understand and can't appreciate it or wrap their mind around it, but they will. They got no options. They're going to have to in the near future, and the industry is aware of that. And so they need to knock out major players. They've tried to decapitalize me and demonetize me and everything else and destroy me, literally and figuratively, and have successfully in many stages of that. They have an endless budget. So you're up against a machine that is remorseless, is very powerful, very persuasive, and very influential, and determined. But they're not like me, and they're not like you. They don't have that drive that we got. They don't have the goodness that we all have. They don't have that honesty that we bring to the table. They don't have. They can't go to battle personally against me or you. They can't. That can't be done because they don't have that moral compass or obligations. They don't have that ability. They don't have that fortitude, or they don't have that drive. They're doing it for a paycheck, and the paycheck is going to come whether they do anything or not. So they have their little shots, but they don't. They can't come out and challenge me on my narrative. They can only come out and make fun of me. Remember when I
Well,
first
what they
started
can do
this?
is they say that we're not educated. We need to understand the science. I mean, they demean us because we don't have a certificate, and we're jumping up and down. I mean, this is the
They
thing.
don't.
I
They
mean,
don't come out and demean me personally though, because then
no,
you drive people to me, right? And so
right?
then people see the other narrative, and then
But
all of
what
a
they
sudden,
do is they call us what we're
yeah.
called nuke. They actually have a phrase. They call us
Nope.
nuke mongers.
Now,
Like
yeah, they've been doing this for
that's
70 years. This is
that's
their
so
job.
ridiculous.
That's their job. That's all they can do is come out and make fun of you. They
As
can't.
if they actually deny that the radioactive contamination causes that much harm. That's the thing that shocks me. As their
Causes
children,
any harm. They'll deny it causes any harm. And I show studies of the animals literally every stream. And that's the very basis of it, right? That's why it's so important. But they do that, and because people don't know how to come back and bang into them, people don't know how to come out and knock them off their perch. And that's all it takes. Like we need a coordination. And so, like, if I had 1 million people following me and 100,000 of them were willing to come out and tweet or Facebook, just, whatever, right? And you come out and you beat one of these people up in a proper video per se, and then 1 million people tweets it and Facebooks it and shares it and re-uploads it, you destroy that person and their narrative the one time. They're done. You done them. They got no way to recover from it, and they go hide in a corner and beat their wives and their children like they normally do. This is, I'm just, don't mind me, but
I know, I
we
know.
got to win. We have to win. There's no
Exactly.
options on the table. We have to come out as winners. We have to get educated and smarten up and stand up and gut up. We gotta move on this now. We're
Hmm.
running out of time. 6 years. That means we ran out of time. See? All 80 killer whales left in Puget Sound, emaciated. And all of them will die soon. Most of
Imagine
them
what's going to happen now. I mean, like with this
shocking
earthquake, like this tsunami, what do you think that
news.
did? It went onshore and went back out and brought a whole boatload more of land-borne radioactive contamination
It's
out into
brutal
the ocean.
because people putting their faith into the academics who are known lawyers anyway. These are the people that will remember as the Pol Pots and the Maos and that will be a nuclear scientist. They'll be labeled as Pol Pot was labeled. They'll be vilified. They'll be hounded. They'll be their own families will turn on them in the next say 2 years at least at the most. Because what
Well,
we're watching the death of the planet. We're watching it. We
yeah.
went out and documented it. We done the whole coastline of Canada. We showed it, an extinction event. And no matter how many people wants to ignore the words that I'm saying, ignore the research that I've done, you can't. You're not going to get away from it just because you ignored it. You're not. It's going to change your life over the next year or two. When the whales finally die off, and they will, no more than a year. Right now, they're so starved and so emaciated, they're
Even
eating
if
each
three
other.
years, okay, let's say 3 years, that's still
Yeah,
outrageous.
it won't
They're
last
not
that long,
gonna,
of course,
they're
but
not
yeah.
gonna last 3 years. But even if they did, we've killed the whales because we
And
chose
everything
to
else because they were
ignore them.
top. They were the apex. They were the last to go. That's what
Because
I
they
mean
kept
by that,
saying, "Don't
folks.
worry about it. We're going to raise the radiation limits." So now, if there's a nuclear emergency, if they raise the radiation limits now that if there's an emergency, the levels of acceptable radiation get dramatically increased until the emergency is over.
That has always been their plan. This is always what they've done. They were trying to move people back into the Fukushima prefecture that same week as the accident. Right? They didn't stop since then. If you go over to World Nuclear News and go back to their Fukushima stories, you'll see World Nuclear News trying to work out how they're going to get everybody to go back. Bananas, potato chips, walking in the sunshine, getting on airplanes and climbing mountains. All of the ad hominem nuclear puke lies were there. But that's the same thing with all the other media were doing it too and still doing it. They're still like the nuclear industry. If you go look at like lectures from the major think tanks and policy and institutions and universities, shakers and movers, all of them are working out, talking about how they're going to get people to go back. And like I personally, if they said that to me and I was there, I'd grab them by the throat, and like I would, like shut your mouth. I'd be screaming and I'd freak out because to me, that is what you're supposed to do when somebody wants to murder everybody. Is you deal with them. You don't pretend that, oh, they're an academic, I can't say shit to them. No, I get them by the throat on their back and I knock their friggin' nose apart. At least that much. If you try to get my loved ones and convince them to move back in, I'll break your friggin' neck right on the spot. I'm not putting up with it from anything on the planet because I'm a human being. I'm not calling for violence. I'm saying, as a human being, what the proper response they're going to find out is going to come in their way.
That's what people would do if it was real. If they were going to make you move into a place where you
come up,
knew
told
you
me
were
to
going
move back in,
poison
I
your
knocked
children and poison your family, you would resist them with every part of your being. Any normal, loving parent or family would do that.
Who was educated knows better. Once you're educated, you understand how vicious what they're trying to do to you is. They're trying to murder you. And you're not allowed to call for someone to grab them by the throat. Shut the fuck up. Anybody out there that thinks that way. You're not allowed to call them out. You're not allowed to get in their face. You're not allowed to hold them accountable because the system won't. Yeah, we catch you. We find out who you are. We deal with you.
Just go
That's
into
what
the
future will be. Not
That's
me.
really what it's like, an internment camp with poison and radiation. It's like a big, gigantic prison.
And you're not allowed to speak out against your murderers. Shut the fuck up to anybody out there thinks like that or wants to think like that or thinks that they live in a world where they're protected. You're only protected for about another year. Then this whole planet is going to come looking for you. That's all I'm saying. This whole planet is going to come grab you by the throat real soon because they're not going to rationalize like me and Lonnie does. They're going to freak out like Dana just done. I'm just showing you what is going to happen. I'm saying
well,
it. Like,
I think, you know what?
I see it here in the community.
I've been meditating on this one. I think it's very important for us to remember that there's going to be the tension. They're not going to give up their power if we threaten them.
No, you got to take it from them. They're never going to give it up. You got to go take it from them. You got to yank the hair right out of their head. And you got to pull them down the steps and throw them into the fucking building. You can't sit there passively anymore. They will murder you. They're murdering you. And that people will realize that on their own in the next year or so. People are going to freak out. And these people ain't going to have anywhere to hide and put their own home.
This is why taking right action, acting on, this is where Tom Ackerman's message is super important. Acting on your conscience. Just if we could get those people to do the right thing, like these people, some of them, really, we need just some to peel away. You know what I mean? We don't need a lot. We just
they'll be the ones that'll sell us out as soon as they get the opportunity. And that's the problem. That's what I'm saying. Nobody will want to trust them. They've done it to themselves. We would love for them to come on board and solve all of our problems. But we are idiots if we wait for them to do that.
That's true.
We got no one to blame on ourselves.
Don't hold your breath because it's not going to do quick. And actually, you know what's going to happen?
Oh, we should go down and bomb the Iraqis. We should go down and beat up all those communities with bombs. We should kill all them, drone straight to shit them, but not in your own planet, not in your own country.
Not in our own backyard.
Yeah, you go do it to another country, call for vicious fucking violence.
Have to think about it. We don't have
and
to
feel patriotism and nationalism and rah rah rah. But you can't do it for the real criminals right in your own community, destroying you and everything you covet. You are idiots if you think that way, folks. They got you brainwashed and manipulated. Imagine if I walk in your home and try to grab your children, or walk in your home and beat you up and try to rape your wife or come in and steal everything into your home while you're sitting there. What are you going to do? You're going to sit there and let me do all that? No. You're going to fight for your life, aren't you? Well, that's what you're being forced to do now, and that's what you're going to respond with. You're not going to wait for it. You're going to go looking because you're going to get pissed off to kill the Pacific and everything else. And you're going to say, well, frig it. Might as well take them with me. And you're going to know these people in your community, and you're going to go looking for answers. They're going to lie to you. You're going to recognize the lie, and then there's going to be this outburst, this violence. We don't want that. Nobody wants
Yeah.
this. Well,
I
I
mean,
don't want this.
that's the argument in political science, right?
I want that.
Every opposition,
What we're fighting against.
you know,
But
they
that's what.
have these radicals that want to have violent opposition and want to take it right now. And then the other opposition is the moderates who say, hey, you know what? We want to work through a step process. We don't want violence in the street because it tears apart the system and then everybody suffers even worse. And so, like, look,
On the one
the,
side, it'd be nice to just go out and kill them all, get rid of them all. If we had a revolution that done that, whatever the criminal organization was, whether it was the mob or whether it was, I'm not going to name any
well,
particular
but
industries, but
this is
like
the
this
worst
is what
part.
we've seen in other countries. This is what we've seen throughout our histories. This is what we have been known to do as a problem, reaction, solution throughout our entire history was get rid of the evil, just purge it. This is what we've done. And now that we got TV and radio, mass media and schools saying you got to bootlick your whole life, you can't question authority, you got to do this, you got to pay this, you got to do that all the time, and everything turns out to be a manipulation and a deception. What are you left with? You're left with one thing. You're left with a country where people are unstable, they can't, no faith, no trust, and properly so, and that the only solution is to purge these people. That is where we're to now. We're at that position where we have no options. We can't trust it.
I
And we
don't think we're
give
at
it up.
that point yet, Dana,
Yeah,
because
they
most
won't give it up.
people don't know
We got to
yet.
hide indoors for the next 2 weeks. You know what I'm
Yeah, but
saying? But we're
people
at
don't
that
even know
point.
that they have to hide indoors.
No,
Do you
but I'm saying
realize
we're at
there's
that
a
point.
small percentage of us that are beginning to
Oh,
really
we're at
get
that
that?
point. We're at that point.
You
We
know,
are at that point. It just takes Twitter or Facebook or something like
it
that for it to go
does, it does,
viral.
it does.
We're at
Which
that
is
point.
why you do your.
At that
In fact, let's give out how people. Let's talk about the feeds that you do, Dana, and let's give out your information so people can. Because what Dana does is he does a live feed very regularly on YouTube, and he brings up articles that you can't find anymore that were out in the open when there was actually some reporting on what was going on. Now the door has been slammed shut on
pictures.
any of the media. I mean, it's so. Why
Oh
don't you
yeah,
explain what you do,
I
Dana?
must have 60, 70,000 pieces of information aggregated that I use that I draw on all the time. I have a couple of terabytes of documentation. I have 7,000 lectures on nuclear long before Fukushima happened. But you can find me at Beautiful Girl by Dana on YouTube. You can find me at thenuclearproctologist.org. I do a live stream now 5 days a week, one half an hour. It goes by so fast. It's at Beautiful Girl by Dana, 10:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, British Columbia, Canada time, 5 days a week, Monday to Friday. And this is desperation, what we're doing. Same as me and you this morning. It's
Mm-hmm.
desperation that we're here. The reason we're bonded the way we are is
Mm-hmm.
because we both understand that we are in the fight for every species on this planet, immediate lifespan. This is not a game. We got an extinction event, and I know people can't wrap their mind around it, but you better. You're gonna have to. You can't get away from it. You've got to stop eating it at the Pacific. Eat from the Atlantic if you got to eat fish, or eat from another ocean. But don't be
Or
eating from the
rivers.
Pacific. Don't eat from the Pacific. Anything that's left out there is highly radiated, unbelievably radiated.
One
And what
hundred percent of the tuna tested positive. That's why they
long
don't
time
test them
ago?
anymore.
Yeah, that was quite a while ago,
Yeah, but
2013,
that
right?
100%. That was 2013. They decided to stop testing because they've already
They
determined
only
it
tested for
100%.
cesium. There's
I
100 times more
know.
strontium.
I
The biggest
know.
producer is curium and berkelium and californium, and there's
American.
unobtainium. There's literally, between like americium, neptuniums, the plutoniums. These are hot particles. They're very hot. And like the reprocessing, they take the hot particles out of the americium, neptuniums, and that, and uranium and plutonium. It has to come out so that it's cool enough they can store it. That's what the processing is about. The processing was only created, fuel processing plants were created because nobody would allow it in their backyard. And so this was another way of them trying to come up with a way to deal with it because they couldn't bury it like they wanted to and ignore it. They had to go out now and burn all that taxpayers' money. It's always, they couldn't exist without bankrupting your country. You would bankrupt America just to clean up Hanford. You
It's
would
true.
bankrupt the country. That's the experts, not me. Well, it is me too. You will bankrupt your country just trying to clean it. You couldn't do it anyway, but you will have to put everybody to work to clean up Hanford. Think about those statements. That's not a joke. I'm not making it up. I'm not fabricating it. I'm not exaggerating it. That's a fact.
If we
That's
don't close
shocking.
the Columbia generating station, it is bye
Yes.
bye North America. I'm telling you, it's exactly like Fukushima, but the same type of reactor. It is sitting on an active live earthquake fault 15 miles away from Hanford.
And Fukushima, folks that don't know, each of the buildings had 6 reactor cores. Six. 10 years of fuel stored in the buildings. 10 reactor cores is what I'm talking about. I'm sorry, 6 reactor cores, 10 years of the reactor cores. Every 18 months top, they pull the reactor cores out. And so it's so hot, it's boiling water all the time for 10 years upstairs at the top of the buildings that don't exist anymore. And so that's 24 reactor cores in those 4 buildings. It didn't matter that reactor 4 wasn't running, it still had 6 reactor cores in it. And like when they done the story about the earthquake the other day, they talked about the Donny plant. They talked about the fuel pool at Donny having 2,500 fuel rods into it. Folks, you got to realize 2,500 fuel rods is not enough to turn your reactor on. It's not. And those reactors are the same design as the Donny, as the Diachi. And so why did they come out and lie on that, let alone lie on everything else? But why did they come out and tell you there's 2,500 fuel rods? Because that's another lie, setting the stage for the future. When each of the buildings would have had close to at least a 500,000, and if not, I'm sorry, they have close to about 5 million pounds per building stored in the building total, and that you're looking at around 67,000 rods per cycle. So when they tell you they only have 2,500 rods in the fuel pool that they're worried about, that's how many rods were in those fuel pools. That's an outright fabrication.
So
And
Dana,
so every way, it's a lie. Go ahead, Lonnie.
well, this week they were saying, oh, number 3, the water's hitting criticality, but don't worry, we have a week or so before it gets really
Right.
bad.
Yeah, 7 days.
And then immediately, like 2 hours later, we've
A
got the
lot of
pump
times they didn't
working.
mention it. Yeah, a lot of times they didn't mention the actual details about it. They just said,
Right.
um, yeah. So they built this hype up, and then all the media ran with it. That same lie, manipulation. Most of them didn't even mention they were talking about Downey. Some of them did. But this was the way they got you not looking at Fukushima, which had went through the detonations and was unstable. That was the one we were worried about shaking apart. And so they also, at the same time, by doing that, a reactor core will heat up 50 degrees, 52 degrees an hour. 38 hours later, it's 2,200 degrees. That's totally melted through now. And so by coming out and saying that the Downey got 7 days and not mentioning the pool in every article like they should have, only in a couple of them, then they portrayed that the reactors could last 7 days without water when they can't,
Right.
right? And so when the tsunami came through that coastline, it was 2 weeks before they got into some of those communities looking for bodies to do a body count or survivor count. The country was wrecked. They brought in navies from all over the world, all over that ocean. Different navies showed up, and they all got highly radiated. On top of that, of course, but it's just the lies are so pervasive, and that the media for 70 years will not question a banana, will not question the walking in the sunshine narrative.
The studies.
Not a single time, and he can't find a single study to give him the courage
Do you
to
know,
do it.
Dana, on my YouTube channel, I just finished reading a scientific study that I found in 2013. It had just come out. And it was a group of 6 Spanish academics who studied the safety culture model of the IAEA. They verified, that it had the safety culture model had never been tested, that it was a safety culture model, I think it said, of 5 things, 5 or 7 things. Of the 7 types that they said that it could do, it really only met the low bar, the very lowest threshold of
On humans, the study
1.
they use. I'm
They've
gonna cut you
never
off.
even tested, and
Yeah,
the
there is
safety culture
one
model is
MIT,
everywhere.
Jacqueline Yates from MIT. She's over in Australia or something right now. She's still a representative from MIT. Had come out and said that all the models used are based upon just a single minute exposure to a human.
What?
So all their models are based upon a 1 minute exposure to a human. It wasn't a fatal exposure or anything like that. And so they have very, 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 very little documentation on the effects upon humans, what they said. But they got unbelievable studies on humans. They had children in orphanages, disabled children, they fed radioactive porridge to. They had 800 pregnant women that they gave vitamin drinks and shots to that were actually uranium, plutonium, americium, neptuniums, like the real bad stuff, and then dug those bodies up and cremated them and looked at the results after. They unbelievable studies, 70 years, millions of studies on animals. And so Jacqueline had Yates from MIT had come out and lied to everybody. And so all the other academics that are utilizing that same narrative,
What?
and all of
What?
them are,
What year was this? Because it's the same thing. We
2011.
but we hear all the time there's just no real firm academic study on the safety of low level radiation on people. And I have a very technical book about 4 inches thick by Dr. John Goffman that
Right.
is part of his studies, where he published the academia, he published the information so that anybody who wanted to pick it up, because our government was just blatantly ignoring the facts. The scientists, they would blink their eyes and just go, yeah, right, let's move on, instead of responding appropriately. You know
I
what I
asked
mean?
I asked my probation officer the other day. I said, "How many people sat in my chair, had their story broken by the Japanese Times?" I said, "How many people sat in this chair, were interviewed by CBC in 20-minute interviews? How many people sat in this chair, had their story broken by the Globe and Mail, the biggest purveyor of uranium stocks on the planet? How many people here done hundreds of radio interviews about this subject that sat in this chair? Any of that?" She said, "Nobody. I can assure you, nobody sat here has ever had their story broken in any of these medias." And I said, "How is my conviction compared to most of the people that come in and sit down in front of you?" She said, "It's insignificant." I said, "So why was I singled out then?" She said, "I don't know." Because she didn't. But she said, "It does raise a good point, don't it?" But I mean, this is the reality of it. I beat these people in court. I destroyed them. I destroyed them. I destroyed them. I destroyed them, every bit of their narrative. And yet I was set up and taken apart, but it didn't stop me. It didn't slow me down in the context of it didn't change me. You heard my narrative earlier. I wasn't very pretty. And but I mean, I can't change. That is who I am. I'm not picking on anybody in particular. I just think they're all
Well,
the
I think
lowest
you
forms
just
of life.
explained very graphically what would happen if somebody came and tried to force your family to live in a poison zone. That's all. You're not threatening anybody's life. You're not
No,
telling people that you're going to kill them. You're just saying, look, you try to move my kid and my family into a zone, I'm going to fight you with
come out and
everything
lied
I
to my
have.
loved ones.
And I
Lied to my
honestly don't
friends, and they
think that
repeated
that's
those lies to me.
unreasonable.
Yeah, they repeated the lies to me. And so this is
Well,
what I. This is why I hate nuclear apologists so much. Is because they have harmed everybody around me, and that I won't forget that, and my friends and family won't be forgetting it either, because I won't
so I
let
have
them.
a question to ask you. We only have about 10 minutes, but it's kind of related to this. A friend that I met here in Eugene was a strong, quote, anti-nuke activist in the 80s, worked very aggressively to keep nuclear as much as possible out of Oregon, right? He's gone away since Fukushima happened. They've refused to interview with me. They don't talk about it. They think, yeah, well, whatever. This whole thing about Trump has upset them, and we were talking, and I said, he's like, yeah, it's really bad about Fukushima. And I'm like, look, you called me up and asked me what you could do, what kind of action, like trying to bounce heads with me. I said, and you're ignoring. He's like, well, what can we do? I think it's urgent that we have everybody who understands how toxic, how poisonous it is, to get the information out in every way, get educated and get people to understand. We have got to put an end to it. We cannot just lie down and let them perpetrate war on us. It's a silent war,
Well,
Dana, don't
well,
you think?
soon you won't lie down. Soon nobody gonna lie down. Soon everybody who don't even know jack shit is gonna lose their friggin' minds. Soon everybody's gonna hate these people with a passion, and they can't hide from it anymore. They won't have any safe zones to go into. Pretty soon they're gonna need security every time they move and open their friggin' mouths. Soon he won't be able to give a lecture anywhere. Soon he certainly won't be able to give an interview anywhere. And pretty soon, any media that comes out and apologizes for nuclear is going to get just destroyed right on the street out in front of their buildings and also in social media. That's coming. All of this is true because that is the world we're going to live in is this world of instant anger and instant gratification where people or feel so powerless that they will act out and that they done it to themselves for 70 years of lying to us. The media done it to themselves 70 years of producing the lies, and the academics, the low life scum academics that
It's kind
sat
of
there
like
and
what
allowed people to
happens
lie. Yeah, it's all going
when
to
you
come back, even if I didn't exist or Lonnie doesn't exist. It's coming back at you right now. It's coming back at you, but over the next 2 years, it's going to be hellish. That's a fact because the death of the Pacific, I see it in my community because people know me now. I've done lectures. I've been in the paper. Blah 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 blah. Been around for quite a while with in the community. People know me. They come up to me all the time. I get approached. I get mobbed here in town now all the time. The last couple of weeks, and people are friggin' angry. I mean, they're over the top, and I have to be calm every single time. I don't encourage it because I'm in this little town, so it's like I don't want to turn the town into maniacs. But they're getting upset here. They're rallying on their own. They're becoming their own force here now because I get
I
mobbed
think they
everywhere
need
I
to
go.
sit on. John Goffman said, we can't just call these corporations by their names. Get to know the names of the people in that are controlling it. Like that Elliot Mainzer here at the Bonneville Power Station. We need to call him. We need to say their names. John Goffman said, "Look, a way we can fight them is not just call them Exelon. Find out the names of the people. Like we call out Catherine Higley. We found out her name. You found Dr. Gilmedy. We cannot let these people hide behind their cruel acronym and allow them to perpetrate harm. And they will cower.
We've been trying to hold them accountable, like obviously, but that's what I'm saying. And that's my fear. That's my worry, and that's
Ours
the
too,
outcome. Is that we're going to have an unhinged. We're getting it. We're seeing it, and
Yeah,
it's
but I
not
think
pretty.
they're hoping people would get too sick to get unhinged. Really,
That's
that's
well,
really
they were kind of hoping they could bury it. See, they were hoping it would all,
literally.
somebody would fix it for them, and then everything they can get on with their lives. They're insignificant lives. This is what a nuclear scientist, nuclear academic, or nuclear bloggers, pro-nuclear, they have insignificant lives. They don't have a life. They don't have friends that love them. They're not coveted by anybody outside of the people they lied to, right? And then they have to keep that lie alive, to keep that emotion alive. They feel that they're important when the people believe their lie. But the minute you challenge their lie, they freak. They become unstable. They become arrogant. They come after you, like they done with
Hmm.
me. Right? Like they
And
try
they
to have
call
me
you
arrested
names. They tell you
twice.
you're uneducated. They get snide. They get very condescending. They
Yeah, you
look
got to
down
put
their little noses like, oh, well, I have an education, and look down their little noses, you
we
know?
know how to destroy that narrative, don't we? And so that doesn't work anymore, but it's been working for 70 years, but it doesn't work anymore, right? We
Hmm.
know, so we look at them, we go look up their history, find them lying, then they're game over for them. And that's what everybody else is going to be doing and are doing. Like, it's shocking to me that in this community is finally waking up and that what I'm seeing is like, to me, that's amazing. This is what we tried to do, but we wasn't expecting it to
That's
happen.
right.
Here,
Well, you
and we
know what
didn't
it's
have
like?
much success, I didn't think, but there it is.
It's the
So imagine
concept of turning on the light bulb, right?
it is.
They say 90% of your effort doesn't make the electricity come on. It's that extra 10, but that last 10% that makes the difference. So we're probably at what, the 30-40% still. We're not even past the 50% mark, maybe. Maybe we're at the 30% where 30% of the people are beginning to understand and go, wait a minute, maybe I have to do something to stop them. We have got to start speaking out. We've got to be putting pressure on people to stop the lies. The people who have power,
Well,
they have got to
even
stop it.
I mean, people want someone to go to bat for them, and but you got someone like myself there, and I'm not in a position where I can go to bat. I'm just all I can do is what I can do. Same as you, right? You're doing what you can do. I'm doing what I can
Hmm.
do. I'm capable. I'm very
Well, we're
capable.
also capable of growth and change. So, like you've
I'm
educated
capable.
yourself, you know?
I'm capable of taking the fight to them. I'm capable of winning the war. I'm
Yeah.
capable of leading the charge, and I'm more than capable of um, being moral. Not that I wish I didn't have that burden, because that's a burden to me, to have that moral burden all the time.
Well, we all need to be following integrity and ethics and morality. Like, we need to have, if you follow your conscience, do the right thing, have some integrity, ethics, honor, and just do it. Do what
Hey,
you're supposed to do.
Lonnie, the puffins, you found 250 puffins on the beach, and they made a salacious statement that half the puffins out there are probably dead. So they're not telling us something. Because if you find 250, don't assume that half the population. I'm not going to say what the numbers are because I'm not sure.
Wow.
But we lost half the puffins. They starved to death, emaciated, starved to death. Same as everything else. We lost 500,000 birds earlier this year. They starved to death. All the whales last year.
We are losing, I often
all
go
the
to
seals
that
starved to death. All the mammals out there starved to death when they find them dead. We've never seen that in our history. It's not like a polar bear, gets emaciated because they hibernated over the winter, folks. These animals don't hibernate. And so when they're emaciated, it's game over. They're eating their own flesh, trying to stay alive. And their whales are going from 12 inches of blubber to 4, and then we find them dead. And no injuries, no illnesses, no diseases, no big chunks of plastic stuck in their guts like everybody claims. None of that crap. It's not that at all. This is radiation. It's killed the bases of the
fish and birds are dying up in the tons.
It's incredible. Yeah, these are way up the food chain compared to, like, a glass of salt water would have 1 billion creatures. And so birds are way up the food chain, obviously, is what I'm saying. And they're dependent upon that glass always having 1 billion creatures. And if anything changes, these birds get affected, the mammals and the animals, and all the insects on the coastline, except for around 30 species we're missing. Over 30,000 species, and they're missing. Then far inland, the birds that went and starved to death into the lakes. Saltwater birds, which never go to freshwater lakes. Thousands of them on the lakes, they all starved to death. And then the industry is telling her, screech, it's like a banana. Well, it's like walking in sunshine. I'll let you roll us out there, Lonnie. I know we got 2 minutes.
Listen to what we've lost just since the 20th. Large die-off fish in Chiclao, Peru. Thousands of geese, chickens killed due to the avian flu. That's what they call it in Germany. 3 dolphins in Nova Scotia, Canada. 5,000 water birds, Michigan. That was yesterday. 283,000 birds in Tehran. They said it's from the avian flu. That's what they're calling this. It's all the avian flu. Don't you love that?
Yeah, we hear that a lot, Shannon. I've been watching that one.
It's not radiation. It's not radioactive contamination. It's that
Ever.
old avian.
Ever. If you found a bird dead at the power plant, or a rabbit or a squirrel, nothing. They're not going to say the word radiation. I say, oh, an old dead rabbit found.
Right.
Oh, that's my alarm.
Right. Wow. So you know what, Dana? We have just about a minute left. Do you want to give out your website? Thank you for joining us. It's been and so I'm going to tell Kevin Finnegan we are not going out. I told him he agreed to defer to you. But why don't you tell people? Are you doing a live stream today?
Yeah, in an hour and a half. Beautiful girl, boy Dana on YouTube.
On YouTube, yeah.
Beautiful girl, boy Dana. One word. Excuse me, Dana, D-A-N-A, the last word. Thanks, Lonnie. Good stuff.
Thanks, Dana.
It's
been really awesome. I really appreciate you
being indoors for the next week, folks.
Yeah.
At least a week. And stay in as much as you can for the next couple of weeks. It's not going to hurt you. It's winter times, fall time, whatever. And leave your doors closed in your vehicle when you're out. Don't be hanging laundry outdoors. Find a spot indoors to hang it. Anything you can do to avoid being outdoors for the next 2 weeks. It's shocking to say stuff like this.
But if put your courage feet on, you guys. Definitely.
My name is S.M. Gibson, and I am the host of Anti-Nuclear